Yeah, my Travel Wins podcast. I'm looking at Brian Butler Au. How are you today, Brian?
Good. How you doing?
Doing excellent. Brian is the CEO, founder of suckerpunch Entertainment, one of the largest MMA management companies in the world. A great list of 200 plus MMA fighters. I really like what you're trying to do with Jens Pulver and some of the older guys, so that's nice.
Yeah, Jens was my very first client, actually, the one that got me into the sport. And, I thing that I love about the work that I do is that I'm able to maintain, they're not just clients to me. Like Jens is now one of my best friends. He's retired from fighting, obviously. And, I still maintain a very strong relationship, with him and, several others like Jeff Kern. And, I think that's, one of the most rewarding parts of this job is the relationships I end up with, the friends that I end up with at the end of everything. So, happy and proud about that.
Well, that was one of the reasons I want to talk to you, because you're not a transactional manager in the sense of it's not just business for you. You're really trying to build up more of a relationship management.
Well, I end up, I care for my people, and I'm fortunate enough to have built the business along with my partner, Brian Hamper, and all the help that we have on our team, and to the point where, financially we're stable. So I can now really focus on, doing what we really feel is right for each individual client, as opposed to, trying to bleed every dollar we can get and be done. So, we really, focus on the long-term big picture for each and every one of our clients.
Well, and you've been around long enough where you've seen major changes in MMA as far as sponsorships. Going from so my background, I used to work for One More Round Clothing about 11, 12 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were sponsoring some fighters, a lot of guys in Strikeforce and Stitch, Duran.
Actually, I think I tried to call on you guys. You guys never called me back.
That was, you weren't calling me. I was just a sales rep out in the West Coast.
Yeah, I do remember the brand, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now I sell Western clothing, but it's just kind of changed so much with the Reebok and all that kind of thing. It's really changed. How more difficult is it now managing, or is it easier?
I mean, in one sense, it's easier that we're not scrambling for, fight kits and banners and deliveries and this and that. That's easier.
Yeah.
On the other hand, some fighters are taking a hit as to what they could potentially make in sponsorship because of the restrictions that are now in place. But then again, I can't really say that that's factually, if I'm trying to compare it to the old days of when Tap Out, Full Tilt Poker, or One More Round, and everybody else were in there just throwing money at everything, there was probably half the amount of shows going on at that time. So your guys' budget went a lot further, Now, with, multiple shows every week, every weekend, these companies have to spread that same budget out over, triple the amount of shows that were happening, and the budgets are thinner. So, while you want to say, yeah, you could make a whole lot more money if you were allowed sponsors, it's just actually not true. Not in today's climate, not in the landscape of how the sport is playing out today. It's like real estate. There's a seller's market and there's a buyer's market, and right now it's a sponsor's market, because they can pick and choose who they want, and they can get prices at a premium because sponsorships are hard to come by right now with the economy and COVID and just everything that's on the table.
No, I understand that. And then, how much traveling do you do? Do you think? I don't know if you keep track of that, but I mean, I know you're literally around the world at times.
Up until COVID, I was traveling probably 2 to 3 weekends, or out of every month. Or not just weekends, but fight weeks. Yeah. So I would probably be gone easily half a month, 15 days out of the month of travel on average. But there were definitely months where I was gone more than that. So, how much, I guess I was
a bunch.
Really close to hitting my 1,000,000 miles on Delta.
Well, because I know you've taken trips to China, when you went over there with Whaley. I'm sure you've been to Abu Dhabi.
Yep.
And then obviously Vegas many too many times.
Yeah, plenty of domestic trips, international trips, Brazil, China, Abu Dhabi, UK. So, but I like travel. I like the fact that my job, allows me to see the world as well. So it's, I can't complain.
No,
it's a lot of travel, but I do enjoy it. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah. How do you feel your time when you're traveling? Are you always doing work, or are you trying to relax? Or are you a mixture?
Oh, I barely relax. When I'm on the road, I'm always I'm working all the time.
Yeah.
I work all the time, but then again, I enjoy my work, so it doesn't feel like work. So then I end up becoming a workaholic because I enjoy it. So, again, a blessing and a curse.
How have you balanced family times? Missing birthdays or family friends and events.
Yeah, it's tough, but I try not to miss those major events like that, and I don't. I do, prioritize things that and I won't travel on certain days. I mean, I've already got hard set things on the calendar where I just know I'm not traveling on those days.
I gotcha. Oh yeah, that's. I always set up time, like when I'm home. My wife says date night once a week, no matter what. I'm like, oh, all right. Because if you've been on the road for 2 or 3 weeks, the last thing I want to do is go back out. But,
right.
She hasn't been out, so I have to make that small sacrifice.
Right.
When you started Sucker Punch, did you think you'd be traveling as much as you did? Or you do? Sorry.
No, I did not. I didn't. It just, for me, again, a lot of the travel that I do ends up coming because, so certain clients, certain fighters of ours want me to be on the trips with them. They want me there during their fight week. So if one of my fighters wants me there, I'll do my very best to be there. And some fighters are very low maintenance. They don't care if I'm there or not. And, I won't make the effort to go. And it's not because I don't want to be there. It's just because I got, if I have the ability to pick and choose, I'm going to pick the ones that actually, it means something for me to be there for them.
Do you find, do you ever, I was just trying to think, when you sign up a new fighter, is traveling one of the things you talk to them about, or is it something they've already done, or something you don't even handle?
Travel as in, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, if a fighter's fighting in the lower ranks, like not even an LFA, but an amateur, and all of a sudden they get picked up, do you sit down and say, hey, this is how many people you have to take on the road, this is how you pay them, this is because there's a business background of it. Yeah,
like typically there's a standard, that the fighters bring their cornermen and they pay for all of their expenses for the cornermen, and usually the coaches will take a percentage of the fight purse, and then it's up to the head coach to disperse that amongst the assistant coaches and so forth. But the fighter is basically responsible for, any expenses that team occurs while they're on the road for him or her. And usually the promotion will always take care of one flight, the fighter plus one coach. But if the fighters oftentimes want one more person going with them, sometimes two, then the fighter has to pick up those costs.
Yeah. Is that something I don't know. I mean, if you have a fighter that's at a higher level, a Rose or Carla or Whaley, they're making good enough money. But if you've got a fighter that's on the undercard, that's quite an expense, isn't it?
I mean, undercard of what? Undercard of a regional show or undercard of UFC?
UFC.
Yeah, I mean, it's an expense. It's an extra to fly someone out. You probably $500 for the flight, depending on where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it just depends on the fighter on how much they want. The other coaches or other people there with them. Some people, it's worth more for them to be in their mental state to be surrounded by, the people that they trained with the entire training camp, and some people are fine just going with one coach. It's really a individual choice.
That's cool. And you don't have any say in that. As the manager, are you just trying to get them sponsorships? And obviously, with I would imagine you negotiate with the promotions.
Yeah, the main goal as a manager is to get the fighters busy and get them fights, build them up, and get them to a big show. And once they're in the big show, we kind of try to lobby for, the matchups that we want, the dates that we want, and then get through the initial contract so that we can negotiate the contract after that and the contract after that. Just try to give our clients the longest career they can have. That's the number one priority. Sponsorships and endorsements are a part of it, but like I said, it's a slim market right now, and we are good at it because my background is in marketing, and I'm able to talk the language of most of the marketing departments and of companies that are looking to get on board and develop programs. But the number one priority is to set them up as a career fighter.
And how difficult is it for you? I mean, because you're so invested in to become your friends, how difficult is dealing with them after a loss of trying to build them back up?
Well, I'm not invested in becoming their friend. I'm invested in, I'm invested in being on the journey with them. So, when a fighter loses, it's horrible. It sucks. You know how much they put into it. You know how hard they train and what they sacrifice to get there, and what they were hoping to achieve with the win. And when they don't come away with it, it's the highest highs and the lowest lows. When fighters, especially when a fighter gets robbed with a bad judging, that's the worst. Angela Hill is one of my clients that I believe has suffered two, horrible calls in a row. I believe she firmly beat Claudia Gadelha, and I believe she won the fight against Michelle. The fight with Michelle was, in my mind, closer than the fight with Claudia, but I still thought Angela won both fights, and I think the majority of the people do as well.
Yeah, even Dana said that. So
yeah,
so that's a whole different thing, though, right? I mean,
yeah.
Could you? Do you think obviously you think your background in advertising helped. Was it interesting for you switching kind of roles? Having an advertising background and then becoming an MMA manager?
Yeah, it wasn't planned. I never thought that I would. I really enjoyed I'm fortunate enough to have been, self-employed pretty much my entire career. Outside of waiting tables in college and delivering Chinese food in high school, I've been, self-employed. So when I started my ad agency, I was passionate about that too. I loved it. And I still love the creative side of me. There's always going to be a side of me that is a graphic designer and a marketer and, and a promoter, so to speak. That's what I'm good at. So when I, stumbled into MMA management, for me, I think why Sucker Punch had the success that it had coming out of the gates was because I came at it at the time with a different approach. I wasn't marketing, Brian Butler, the manager. Like at the time there was all these, big name managers, Monty Cox, Ed Soares, and all of them. Everybody knew who they were. Yeah. But I put out, my company and branded Sucker Punch, and it took years for people to actually realize that, I was even involved. And I developed the brand, and then instead of marketing companies and products, I just shifted that attention to marketing athletes, and it was a pretty natural transition.
And obviously, it's working out for you. You've got some of the best fighters in the world. We've been very, very, very fortunate, and to have built the company that the way we have, and it's like I said, we've attracted what I feel are
not just the best fighters in the sport, but honestly, the best people. And I'm really, really proud of that.
How picky are you on picking up new fighters now? Like,
so we don't actually. Most of our new fighters come through referrals.
Yeah.
At this point, a coach will like us and they'll refer their up and comers to us. Or another fighter will, that's happy with us, will refer one of their colleagues to us. I mean, that's kind of how it's been going. So if one of our clients that has established a rapport with us, clients or coaches that we work with that has established a rapport with us, says, hey, you need to really take a look at this girl or this guy, that is usually one of the biggest parts of the vetting process for us already. So, they know that they have enough respect for us to only refer people to us that they believe in. And if they believe in them, then I'm going to have their back and we're going to believe in them too.
That just takes time to build up that kind of rapport with people to know that you're a solid person. Then you need to know that they're a solid person.
It did take time, and there was, plenty of times in the business where I was ready to walk away from it because I didn't think it was moving fast enough for me. But, Jeff Curran is still one of my best friends to this day. He kind of convinced me to stay the course and stay in it. And, I'm glad I did. I'm glad he made me do that because, I think the way that we built ourselves was slow and steady. And I feel we have a really good reputation.
Yeah, you do. Everyone I've talked to, at least. So I'm not obviously in the MMA world, but I know a couple of people, and I think managers. You're right. I mean, it's interesting you said that because I remember having to deal with some managers that would call me, and it's like, oh, it was kind of that greasy slime ball, kind of the boxing manager type mentality.
And I thought it was going to be, it's martial arts. I thought it was going to be this big respectful business where everybody's like, you're bowing at each other. You're like, everybody's going to have a high level of respect, sportsmanship, and all that stuff. But I quickly learned that the management side of it was extremely shady, and everybody was just trying to step on everybody to get ahead. And I just never did that. And I told myself if I just keep doing it the way that I do it, and the doors keep opening, just keep walking through the doors. But if one door slams in my face, I'm just going to turn around and run back to my ad agency. And they never did. The doors just kept opening. So I just kept going through them. And at some point I had to take the leap of faith and shut down the ad agency. And that took me about two and a half years before I finally just cut the cord on that place. And I still had the lease on the office downtown. I ended up, I would go check the mail, like once a month, because I wouldn't even go down to the office anymore. I had to, obviously I let my employees go, slowly but surely. And I finally just cut the cord and went full on into this business, and I haven't really looked back, but it was one of the best choices I ever made.
It sounds like, and maybe now in reflection, it sounds that way, but you ran into some really good people. I mean, Jens is a good guy. Jeff Curran, you got in some solid people early, and I think that kind of probably helped.
Absolutely. Jens definitely, I couldn't have asked for a better scenario to break me into the industry. And I was just training at a gym here, because I was behind a computer all day at my ad agency. So I started training at a gym here, and my coach, Brian Crenshaw at Combat Sports Center here, he recognized that I owned an ad agency, and he asked me if I would help promote a local show here in Richmond, like amateur MMA and stuff like that. So I told him I would do it, but I'm not going to pay any more gym dues. And, that was my trade. So it became kind of a hobby for me. And then one of the first things that we did to promote the show was to, bring in a special guest that fans could come and meet and sign autographs, because that was how we would draw people in to buy tickets. And Jens was the guy that we brought in, Jens Pulver and Sean Shirk. And Jens was fresh off of coaching The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And he came and he and I hit it off, and he was like, man, he's like, I really love the way you operate. I brought him to my office downtown. He saw my ad agency, met my people. then he messaged me. He's like, I'm getting ready to come back to Zuffa, WEC, fighting Cub Swanson. He's like, I'd love it if you'd be my agent. I was like a fanboy. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's asking me. I was like, James Pulver, are you kidding me? You know?
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just immediately implemented my skill sets of, you know, marketing and advertising. And I put all those efforts and energies into Gens. And, you know, I hit up all of my network to try to bring in some non-traditional sponsors. Gens told me he was really into video games. So I got, you know, Activision on board for Call of Duty. I think it was Call of Duty 4 at the time. And then PC Gamer magazine, and you know, and then I designed and packaged Gens' entire fight. You know, they're called fight kit now. Back then, it wasn't. It was just banner and shorts.
Yeah.
And everybody had the black banners and multicolored shorts. Everything was hodgepodge. But I remember in my head, I had the vision of putting Gens out there. I wanted him standing in front of his banner, and I wanted to look like he was an action figure in a GI Joe package. You know, I wanted everything to match, the brands, everything, and did that. And everybody, after he fought that fight with Cub, everybody was like, man, who's working with Gens? And I was just wondering if I did a good job, and apparently people noticed. And you know, Jeff Curran, I met him there. He fought Uriah Faber in the main event, and you know, I actually liked watching Jeff from that Tap Out TV show. I remember watching how he coached Pat Curran when he was on that episode, and I had a lot of respect for how he operated. And when I met Jeff, you know, I was just like, I just let him know I respected him. And then he ended up calling me a week or so later and asked me if I would, you know, do work with him, and he would also give me his entire fight team at Team Curran. And I couldn't say no. Door open, so
yeah, no kidding.
Did that, yeah, and. One thing led to another, and just kept building. That's
the interesting part is, you know, it's always reflection back, because I do the same thing. I got started in selling clothing because of the Tap Out guys.
Right.
I met Mask and Punk Ass and Skyscrape at a lot of the jiu-jitsu tournaments, the local tournaments here in LA, and they were literally setting up at tables, so you could just sit there and talk to them. No, I mean, they weren't superstars then.
Yeah.
And then when I got one more round, I started talking to them, and then I got some other ideas in my head, and then Punk Ass was like, just stick with it. And he goes, I don't know how I ended up doing this. I just ended up doing it. Just, if you like it, do it. I'm like, shit, okay. Yeah. What's the background with Alienware? I love that story with Felice.
Alienware was so, you know, after I started developing, you know, a small roster of fighters, I still wanted to go after non-traditional sponsors to come into the sport. I thought the sport was in an infancy stage where, you know, there was a lot of value for the dollar. You know, Versus was always airing WEC, UFC was putting stuff on, I think it was Spike TV at the time. I don't know. It was kind of, you know, and I kept calling Alienware because Gens kept pushing me that the gaming industry was a great match, and I agreed with them. And I cold called them for like a year, maybe more, and they just kept brushing me off. And, you know, finally they were like, oh, this guy's calling again. And they're like, all right, we'll give you you know, I guess, I don't know if it was from their slush fund or whatever, but they gave me a small amount of money for the quarter. I think it was like $11,000 for one quarter, and they said, you know, if you can make some noise with this, we'll talk again. So I called everybody on my roster at the time, and I said, guys, it was like, we have the potential to land a big whale here with, you know, a non-traditional sponsor. It's not going to be a lot of money, but, you know, I need you guys to trust me. I'm not going to lose any real estate on you, and you know, I'm going to put the logo on you guys. I'm going to give you some money, but I got to spread this money out as far as I can. And I got, you know, I had Pat Barry, Amir Sadala, James Pulver, Jeff Curran, Bart Palashevsky, Felice Herrig, everybody. I called everybody on my roster, and I just threw the logo on everybody. And I thought I was killing it for them because they were pretty much on TV every week. And then at the end of the quarter, they said, you know what, we didn't see any real results. You know, thank you for trying, but, you know, thanks. And I was like, damn, you know, I was bummed. I thought I crushed it. I thought I hit it out of the park. And then, Felice, social media was just kind of starting to pick up, and she was like right at the very front of it. And during the time she was wearing Alienware, she would always joke around, saying, the little blue alien was her boyfriend, or my little blue boyfriend, or this and this. But after they closed the deal, she tweeted something, and then the social media account from Alienware tweeted back to her, and she was a smart ass, so she just replied back. She's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore. I got a new boyfriend now. His name is Mac." So making it like Apple.
Yeah.
And like 15 minutes later, I had emails, text messages, voice messages, everything came through. Like, we need to talk. We just saw our social channels light up. We need to figure out a way to open up this program. And then we did. We turned that $11,000 budget into probably like $1.8 million, and it lasted. We ran that program for probably six years or so. It was around for a long time. I can't remember.
That's awesome.
But we ended up having it in the center of the octagon and the UFC and everything. So all that from
a cold call.
Stupid cold call and a smart ass response from Felice.
What do you foresee? I don't want to take up too much of your time. I was just curious. What do you see as the future of MMA for the next 5 years?
I see it becoming just more and more mainstream. I see the endorsements continue, potentially opening up more and bringing people on mainstream. You're already seeing it. Israel just signed a deal with Puma. I'm working with several modeling agency with Rose to do some things. Whaley is doing stuff with big brands in China. I mean, I just see it. And I see MMA fighters starting to get the same recognition as NBA, NFL, things like that. I mean, look at even now, though it's kind of propaganda, Kobe Covington and LeBron James are in the same sentence across the news everywhere.
Yeah, and I totally see the same thing. I was just curious if do you see like another promotion coming out, i.e., not Strikeforce obviously, but a Strikeforce or Bellator that could compete against UFC? Or
I think that Bellator is actually doing a fantastic job.
I do too.
And they, I've got a large amount of fighters on that roster, and they're all very happy over there.
And I know like Ray Sifu had the World Fighting, World Fighting Championship,
World Series of Fighting, PFL.
So I know people are still trying at different times. I'm just curious because UFC came out with the big buyout, the $4 billion. That's going to be a hard hill to climb to compete.
I think everybody considers the UFC to be the premier promotion out there, but like I said, Bellator, in my opinion, is also the big show. If you get someone signed to Bellator, the money is as good, if not better, and the talent is definitely as good. I would say right now Bellator has the very best welterweight on the planet. And people can argue me, but I will put my guy Douglas Lima up against anybody.
Do you ever think you'll see? Because I know UFC was they used to try and get some of the Strikeforce guys before they had bought Strikeforce. They used to try and get them to fight. They wanted Wanderlei to fight Chuck and all that. Do you ever think you'll see a Bellator champ fight a UFC champ?
Not cross promotion. I don't think so. I think that you'll get opportunities like that if somebody leaves, like Michael Chandler, and goes to the UFC. We'll see a Bellator champ fight someone in the UFC. But that's probably the only way.
Yeah. Well, hey, like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. What's the best way for people to follow you and then follow your fighters?
On Instagram is where we do most of our stuff. So it's at suckerpunch ENT. And same thing with Twitter. I'm not so much on Twitter anymore these days. Mostly everything is Instagram, but I do also have a personal Twitter at Brian Butler _ Au AU. But yeah, Instagram at suckerpunch ENT.
Yeah, and then your website's really good too, actually, where it has a breakdown of all your current fighters.
So. Oh yeah, thanks. It constantly needs to be updated, but you'll if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see when we sign new fighters and stuff like that. The website's usually got a 6-month lag on it.
That's got to be that's the tough part, right? So it's always changing.
Yeah.
Sponsorships, fighters, what's coming up.
Well, I also think that with the way sponsorships are going these days, or the market in general, people are looking at social media more than they're looking at company website.
Absolutely.
Unless you're shopping for something, I'm not sure. I would be way more devastated if we lost our social media than if we lost our website.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's how people get their information now.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure to put all the links on my website, and that way if my listeners want to check it out, they can just go to the website and hit the link. So I'll make sure that's available.
Sounds good.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, Brian.
All right.
Okay, bye.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.